from Overtime Heroics MMA. We're here now today with Kevin Ross. Very, very experienced Muay Thai fighter, 59 fights in total, 45 wins. That's very, very good achievement in anyone's eyes, really. Fought some of the best out there, some of the top Thais in Thailand. Looking back on what you've done so far, what would you sort of pinpoint as the achievements that stick out with what you've gone through?
There's been a lot, but obviously fighting Saenchai was probably the biggest, one of the biggest landmark things in my entire career. That's the one that stands out above anything else, you know. But winning the Lion Fight title was a big one. Not so much the title in itself, but fighting Thompson and everything. Those are the things I look to more than a title itself. Is the person you fought and how that went and those kinds of things, because anybody can win a title at any time, and it doesn't necessarily equate to being a good fighter. It's just the right time and the right place and the right day. So I try not to put too much emphasis on those trinkets. They're just kind of extra. They're pretty and nice to have, but they don't necessarily mean a lot if you haven't fought the right people.
Yeah. I mean, as I've said, I mean, you fought some of the top guys. One of the guys, obviously, you beat was Milipet at the King's Birthday 2010, was it?
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of those. I mean, for anyone that's not quite familiar with Muay Thai, I mean, the King's Birthday is sort of the pinnacle of the Muay Thai events, really. I mean, that's all the top guys are normally sort of on that show, really. What sort of experience was that for you?
It's funny looking back. It seems obvious that I would have beat him, but the way I came up, when I was starting, he was extremely experienced already and just murdering people left and right. So my all the way up until that fight was probably, I think I started 7 years before that. So the whole time I'm training, and as I'm beginning and going through my career, I'm watching him already just wrecking people left and right. Not only that, he was doing it at a much higher weight class. So I never even thought we would ever fight. It didn't seem like even a possibility to me for various reasons. Experience level, the weight being, I mean, he was fighting at 154, and I was coming up at 140. So it didn't even ever cross my mind as a possibility. And then when it got offered to me, I was like, yeah, of course I would love to, but it was an enormous leap for me in competition and experience level at that time. And 99% of the people that heard this fight was going on was like, that's stupid. Like, why are they fighting? Kevin has no business in the ring with them. He's gonna knock him out in one round, and that was kind of the prevailing mindset of people, and the chance people gave me of winning. And I knew that going in, but I knew even if he'd fought a million people, he never fought me. And that's kind of always been my mindset going up against these guys. Is it doesn't matter how many people you beat, doesn't matter how good you look against everybody in the world. You never know until you get in there with that person. And yeah, fortunately that fight went my way, and it just brought the best out of me. And that's really what's kind of been a theme throughout my career is taking those giant leaps up in competition has forced me to elevate my game that much more. And that's why I always preferred fighting people that most people thought I had no business in the ring with, because all it's ever going to do is make me better, which it did. And it's actually been a lot harder at this stage in my career being on the opposite end of that, where people coming up are fighting me. And I don't really like that. I don't like to be the experienced, better one. I'd rather be the underdog and the one that's got a lot to prove. But it's just a different point in my career, and it's a whole nother thing you have to do mentally and physically. And you know, whenever you think you've gotten to a point, there's something new that comes, and then a different way that you got to approach it. And you know, it's all been learning. The whole journey has always been a learning experience. No matter how much you think you've got down, there's new paths to go.
Yeah, I mean, it's all the different kind of pressure as well, really. And I mean, as you say, you was used to be the guy that was sort of not so much the underdog, but the guy that
Yeah.
wasn't given such the the chance going into it, really. And as you say, now you're on the other foot to it. I mean, how do you sort of address that kind of pressure? Because obviously it is a total different aspect to look at, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure that out. You know, it was one of those things where it wasn't a gradual thing like it was like the way I came up was gradual, even though I was taking giant leaps every time. But I went from, you know, doing that to all of a sudden now I'm fighting. Now I'm on the other end of the spectrum, from one fight to the other, and yeah, I didn't really even think about it at the time that was going on, and there were so many things in the beginning and throughout my career that I never had to think about because of the people that I was fighting. You know, it's like these people are probably going to murder you, so you have to do everything in your power not to let that happen. So many things were subconscious that I didn't have to address because I didn't have a choice in the matter. But now it's to a point where, you know, I could screw around in a fight to a degree with some people, and you know, not keep myself at that heightened state and almost drop down to their level and make these fights a lot closer than they should be, which is something I've struggled with, you know, which I've always struggled with when I fight people kind of below me experience wise or you know, strength and speed wise and that kind of thing. It's, you know, it's easy for me to elevate myself. It's hard for me to stay there when the opponent doesn't force me to do that, and that's really just something I've been learning how to do. And I don't know how, I don't know how to do it. I'm still trying to figure it out. It's just a different thing, you know. It's really it you have to be much more intentional about it because you're not forced to do it like you are with somebody that literally could put you in the hospital.
Yeah, I mean, like you say now about obviously when the competition's high, I mean, you've got that sort of element in your head, knowing that those people could cause some serious damage. I mean, obviously, as you say, you've one of your biggest accomplishments you say was fighting Senshai. I mean, you wrote a book on it really as well, didn't you? Wasn't it your journal, Dancing with Senshai?
Yeah, so that was the first book I wrote. Yeah, and yeah, it was basically just my journal that I kept throughout the training, getting ready for that fight, and then a little bit of it after the fact.
And how would you sort of approach that, knowing you're going in there with possibly one of the best Muay Thai fighters there at that stage in time? I mean,
Yeah.
how do you sort of get ready for that? Can you get ready for that, or is it just something you've got to sort of say, well, I'll do what I can do and hope for the best?
Yeah, well, it's both because on one hand, you can't go in there with that mentality because you've already given yourself that out. Like, I'm not going to win, you know, no matter what, I'm not going to win. I just want to do good. And you kind of see that with a lot of the foreigners that he fights. They're just kind of happy to be in there with him. And, you know, they're not, yeah, they're trying. But the thing is, when they're not really threatening him, he's not going to really threaten back. Like, he's not going to risk um, putting himself out there. If they're not going to threaten him, he'll just kind of coast and play around with them, you know. But for me, it was one of those things where it was, I would rather give it everything I have, even if he knocks me out in the first round. I know that I wasn't just happy with the fact that I'm in there. You know, I'm not. I'm not content with, oh, I got in the ring with Sanchez, so that's an accomplishment in itself. Like that wasn't. I never held that mindset. It was, I'm gonna take it to him with everything that I have for as long as I can, every second, and there's not going to be a moment where my foot's not on the gas, and no matter what happens at the end, he's going to remember me. He's going to remember that I fought him. I wasn't in awe or watching the Sanchez show, which is, again, which I saw so many people do, is they were just kind of stuck, and it's hard not to be when you're in there with somebody like that. You've watched this person forever, and all of a sudden you're standing across from him, and you're starstruck in a lot of ways, or can be. So much of my training and preparation was just turning that switch off. Like, he's just another human being. No matter how many things he's done, no matter how great he is, he's flesh and blood. He's not a god, even though he's amazing and he's a ninja and all these things. Like, he's just a person, and that was something that I got to see him fight live in Thailand. I think it was about three or 4 months before we fought. He fought Sakadao at Lumpini, and I was there, and I got to see him fight up close. And seeing him fight up close, I was able to see the frustration in his face. I was able to see him try things that didn't necessarily work out, where when you're kind of on the outside or watching it on video, it seems like everything's so perfect and like he can't be touched and all of these things, but he makes mistakes. He doesn't want to lose. He has feelings. He's a person. He's a human being, and that stayed with me. Like, he's just like anybody else, regardless of all of his accomplishments and experience. He's a human being. Anybody can lose at any given time, any day, against anybody. It's just a question of whether you perform and you're there that day. And I vowed that I wouldn't go in there and just be another highlight for him. And turned out pretty decent.
Yeah, I mean, like you say about him, you wanted to go in there for him to remember you. I'm sure he did, because I haven't seen it recently, but if I remember right, I mean, you took him all 5 rounds.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So I mean, he wasn't going to forget you in a hurry.
Yeah. And to me, that was more of an accomplishment than done a lot of things. Even if I'm glad in a lot of ways that I didn't win. Unless I did it convincingly, of course, but in a fight like that where, people, if they would have given it to me, the backlash would have been so bad. People would be like, oh, American judges are stupid, he didn't win, and this and that, and, I think it was more impactful the way it went down, and to be able to do what I did and not have that negativity hanging in the air about it, even though there's still people that talk about it as if it's the same as when he fought other people, like he was playing around and just having fun. But you ask him, he'll tell you very differently what happened in that fight.
Yeah. One of the last things I want to ask you, you seem to be one of these fighters that's got a knack for, if you do lose a fight and you get yourself a rematch with that person, you seem to be able to actually pull the win out on your rematch. I mean, there's few fighters that can actually manage that.
Yeah.
What do you attribute to that? Is it just purely learning from your mistakes the first time round, or?
A lot of things it has to do with that. A lot of the adjustments and the technical adjustments and training adjustments, and that has a lot to do with it. But I'd say more than anything, it's continually improving regardless of who you're fighting. Trying to elevate my game and my abilities and my mindset and all these things continuously regardless of whether I win or lose, regardless of how the fight went down. Obviously when you lose, you have a lot more motivation to improve. But I've always tried to keep myself in that mind frame of I can never be as good as I want to be. And everything is pushing myself to that direction, and not sitting on my accomplishments and the things that I've been able to do, because it's like, to me, it's never good enough. There's always more to do. There's always more people to fight, and you can always do better. You can always, even when you win, you could have won better, more in a technical, better way, and all these things. So that's kind of always been my motivation from day one, is keeping that day one mentality. Like, I have so much farther to go. Even now, I still feel that way, and I think that's why it's easy for me to relate to people that have never done this, or people that are just starting out, or anything like that. I don't view myself as this person in the sport that's like up here, and like, oh yeah, I've done all these things and I've had these fights with these people, and that puts me in a different place than you. Like, I feel like we're all in the same place in the grand scheme of things, as in we can never attain all the knowledge and all the wins and all of these things. Like, we're all just as far away from that point as anybody else, because that point is infinite. You can never get there. So in that aspect of it, we are all beginners, and I've always felt like a beginner, and I still feel that way today.
Most recently, you've obviously been fighting for Bellator kickboxing. Are you still under contract with them? Is there any sort of fights we should be looking out for?
I actually just re-signed with them. That last fight was the first fight on my new contract with them. So, yeah, I got hopefully I'm fighting in, April 18th, I think. It's not signed or anything yet, but that's the rumor floating around that I've been told. So I'm hoping that's what I'm getting ready for, regardless of whether it happens or not. So I'll be ready to go as soon as something comes up. But I think that's what it's going to be.
Yeah, that's awesome. Kevin, I just want to thank you for taking the time out to do this interview.
Hey, it's my pleasure, man.
Truly is appreciated, mate. As I say, thank you for doing it. Wish you all the best. Hopefully the April fight does come through for you and goes the way you want it. And I hope to see many more fights through in the future.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Thank you very much.